Welcome to Totally Radical. Okay, hold on a second. Hey, special effects department, we have a long podcast name, so not on each word, okay? Mixtape podcast show 8. Scary show 8? Your hosts, Charlie and Paul, are here. And we are reviving the frightful things that had us up all night in the 80s. Chucky, who will be stalking us in the dark or visiting us in our nightmares on this show?
On today's show, we're going to head back to 1980 to deep dive into the Stanley Kubrick horror classic, The Shining. Next, we'll head out to everyone's favorite house built on an Indian burial ground and revisit the ghostly classic Poltergeist from 1982. But before we nail the coffin shut on the show, I'm going to share some real-life ghost stories and talk about a ghost investigation I did at the Whaley House in San Diego back in 2015. Be sure to exercise your ability to click your like and subscribe buttons so you don't let the evil spirits make you miss any future shows.
Oh, sorry. I was just playing with this Ouija board, and it says to visit our Facebook and Instagram pages to see extra spooky specials and to share your top terrifying moments.
And later in the show, we'll offer up our latest ultimate mixtape song editions with 5 new gruesome rock classics that are sure to fill your boxers with baby Ruths. Add them to your playlist on your favorite music streamer so you can murder your eardrums right along with us this week. Then we're going to talk about our featured beer of the week and give you all of the gory details about what's in our pint glass. But now, without further ado, let's grab a shovel and some lye. Let's find a soft spot in the ground, and let's get those bodies buried. It's showtime.
And you scream on Halloween. On
Woo! That was a bit of a scary new intro there, Charlie.
It's very chill. It's very chilling, and obviously the background behind you is chilling as well. Just making need to bundle up here.
I wanted to bring in a background that, screams The Shining. I looked up frozen mazes. I looked up scary hotels, and then I saw the snowcat, which is their salvation, getting out of this place. So yeah, let's talk about The Shining.
Oh my gosh, this is a movie that runs deep with me personally, as this was the first horror movie that my parents ever actually let me watch. I think back, came out in 1980, and then the dawn of the VHS machines was shortly thereafter in 1981. And I was actually, from a very young age, I was a pretty big Stephen King fan. Been turned on to some of the books. When this movie came out, I actually found the book at the library and took it out, and I'm not sure I ever gave it back. So if anybody from the Anne Arundel County Library is watching this podcast, I'm pretty sure 45 years gives me a little bit of grace. So, but a fantastic book. But I tell you, when Mom and Dad let me watch this movie, good grief, this was definitely a nightmare-inducing kind of film. That's for sure.
You bring up a good point. In 1980, there's no way in hell I was able to watch this. I'm not even sure my parents were into horror films. We didn't grow up watching them. They might have watched them at night. I never remember my parents talking about them. So yes, the idea that this was available eventually on VHS at Don's Video.
Don's Video. I'm pretty sure that's where we got it from, as a matter of fact. So, yeah.
But I don't even recall the first time I saw this, except for I'm more than likely I was definitely a young adult, if not full-fledged adult, because I'm pretty sure my mind couldn't have dealt with this thing.
Essentially, it's about a kid who has ESP. So that's Danny. So Danny Lloyd, he's got ESP. He's got a father who's a recovering alcoholic trying to get his life together. You know, he's a school teacher now working on a novel, you know, per Mr. Torrance. But then and his mom's kind of a little all over the place. I mean, you have to think back to Shelley Duvall's prior role. Wasn't she in Popeye right before the
Olive
Shining,
oil.
if I remember correctly?
Olive oil.
Wow.
And I want to get into her later, though.
Yeah. So ultimately, the early portion of the movie, just to kind of talk about the plot line, I mean, he gets the job as the caretaker of the Overlook Hotel, which in real life is the Stanley Hotel, which is still open for business in Colorado, and it's also a haunted site. But again, talk for a little bit later.
I've been there.
Have you been there?
I've been to the one that's in Oregon, right? They shot some of it.
I think there was the one of the snowcat shots, I think, as they were coming into the hotel, I think was shot up in Oregon, but I believe the Stanley's in Colorado, and it's
and I've seen that as well, and it's and I want to ask you that eventually is because this applies to Poltergeist, the idea that a production company, a Hollywood production company, comes out and says, we want to use your location for this film, for a horror film. You know, eventually I want to hear your answer of what is the attraction, money, but the end result doesn't seem to be the best case scenario when it comes to some of these places, because people either gravitate or I would think majority of them stay away.
I think it kind of straddles both sides of it. I mean, at least as far as the paranormal culture in year 2025, I mean, you know, there's still a fair amount of TV shows, not as many, but there's still a couple TV shows that are still being produced, like Ghost Adventures. But most of them are becoming these clip shows. It's not as expensive for them to produce, you know, so the paranormal caught on camera and stuff like that. I actually know a couple people that present on that show. Easiest thing they do, they send them clips, they review them, they do their little opinions on them, and that's it. You know, easiest thing.
Sure.
But back real quick to the Stanley. So Stephen King's inspiration for this film was him and the family staying at this hotel.
I'll bring up that banner because that should be first. Sorry.
Yeah, he stayed in room 217. Him and his family stayed there, and again, like in the banner, they were the last guests before the hotel shut down for the season. So his motivation, he said, well, I noticed there were a group of nuns leaving, so I sort of got the place was godless at that point. Sort of, unleashed all of the terror within that was documented within. So. But yeah, so then, you know, Jack gets the job as the caretaker. So, you know, obviously the family moves up to the Overlook and, you know, seen off by Scatman Crothers was Dick Halloran. Dick Halloran. So he saw him off. He was the last person out, and he's going to chill in Miami for the next 6 months.
or try to chill.
Yeah, stuff didn't go quite as he had planned, but interestingly enough, in sort of the run up though, they note like he's showing the family the kitchen at the Overlook, and Scatman Crothers holds Danny's hand, and he sort of looks towards him and says, "Want some ice cream, Doc?" You know, and he says, you know, he didn't know really how to respond, but they realized that they both had sort of that ESP communicative ability at that point. So that came in handy later when shit started hitting the fan, and Danny had to reach out to Mr. Halloran via ESP.
Right, and that's where The Shining gets its name, is because that's what right. They call it. You have something called a shining. Yeah.
Yep. Interestingly enough, Stephen King, after the movie came out, he had discussed sort of, I don't understand why the movie is considered to be so scary. It's really more about ESP and that more than it is the horror. And granted, there was only one murder in the movie. I mean, that was
right. Yeah.
You know, him taking an axe to the chest, which was pretty horrifying.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. Yeah, the kill count is only 2 people, honestly. I mean, you know, Jack.
Well, Jack's. Yeah, he
dies. But that's not bad. And the fact that I would even put this in a very strange category as one of the most well-lit horror movies of all time.
Well lit, and I think well scored as well. I think from the very beginning, it's just that slow build up. Again, that's not for everyone. I know some of the critics were like, good Lord, this movie moves so slow. It's like, but it moves up to that crescendo at the end when, again, the shit hits the fan and all of a sudden all the ghosts come alive. I mean, it was just, I thought it was built up perfectly.
Look it up. It's from 1980, yet it still ranks in the top 3 among almost every single list that I looked up as the best horror flick. And the idea that it's just based on a family in the middle of nowhere. Well, not in the middle of nowhere, but by themselves with no one around and this gigantic hotel. And eventually, yes, the premonitions, like the ghosts. So yeah, interesting. Good stuff.
And also interesting that, again, Stephen King, again, was a big critic of this movie, as far as the adaptation. And it's always tough. I mean, you have one artist that sees it one way, and then you've got somebody like Stanley Kubrick, who was, a few movies into his career at that point. But, he's a perfectionist. He sees it his own way. And I think there was certainly some things, and even the selection as far as who was going to be the leads, Wendy Torrance, ended up being Shelley Duvall, but the way that Kubrick personified her in the movie was sort of like a kind of a diz bang. I mean, she's just always crying. It's funny. She cried so much during production that she said that she always had water bottles on hand because she was getting dehydrated from crying so much, which I thought that was kind of an interesting.
I know, and she bothered me, and obviously bothered a lot of other people because they got a first Golden Raspberry Awards for Worst Actress. And then you watch a special on it, and you just understand what Kubrick put Shelley through of take after take after take, trying to getting her to be a certain way. That's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah. And I'm not sure after Popeye and this, I'm not sure honestly if she did anything that was worth even looking. I
think she transitioned more into like, again, I'm not being sarcastic, but I think she went into like children's programming or some things of that nature. I think after this, but again, I'd have to look that part up. But even with the lead with Jack Nicholson, obviously he carries the film. I mean, this is one of his, probably his top 3. But they had preferred like a John Voight type character that wasn't so much crazy before they got there, but the place drove him crazy. I mean, I think if you look at Jack Nicholson early in the film, he's crazy. There's no dicing that up. I mean, this guy's nuts.
Yeah, and it didn't help that was it One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was before this or after it?
Right on that. I think that was in 76 or 77. So yeah, so we already got a pretty good idea where Jack's head is.
Yeah, you already do. And he just has that, he rocks a turtleneck and just walking around and getting the tour of the hotel. There's just a strangeness about him. So yeah, I mean, even the lead up, just the drive to the hotel, talking about the Donner Party and things like that. You just
okay. Yeah, and it's again, you have to kind of think, I mean, it's fine. I watched it twice in the research, and I just like the second time I watched it, I was just like, he's just stealing the scene, just what he carried through that. I mean, again, and Kubrick again really pushing his actors to really raise their game, and go through these scenes again and again, but. Man, I think they whatever they did to Jack, they definitely got the best out of him. That's for sure.
All right. Well, so I wanted to talk about this because I wanted to ask you. I know that you're more of a fan of these kind of types of things. And I'm glad you covered it. But yeah, Stanley Kubrick, 2001 Space Odyssey, Clockwork Orange, Full Metal Jacket, which we just spoke about in the last show. Mm-hmm. I didn't know this, but I super appreciate it just from a film production background of what I've been doing is the Steadicam use and the fluid track shots. Going back and watching it again and watching them follow Danny through the hallways. There is a slowness certainly to the movie, but it's meant to be that way. Stanley put this in where there's a solitude, a quietness, an eerie presence. His big wheel going over hardwood floor to carpet to hardwood floor to rug, and just all those things. And this movie has so much controversy and debate and opinions of how things and why things were done during the shoot. It's crazy. So I appreciate it more watching it again after I did all the research. I went, I never even thought that. And you mentioned the score, but the artwork, the locations, the designs, the Native American aspect of it. So yeah.
Well, even the minutia of, and this again blew my mind as I read this. He types out, all work and no play make Jack a dull boy, and it was just pages upon stacks of pages of that. So to make sure that sounded authentic, they actually had somebody during the shoot typing all of that out, because for folks that remember typewriters, all those keys sound slightly different. So he wanted to make sure if there was someone who had the ear for that kind of thing, that they would think, oh, okay, that's not bullshit. That's actually what he was. So that's just crazy to me, just the level of OCD detail, I'd have to say.
Honey, what did you do for work today? You're not going to believe this. I typed the same line over and over and over again. And that was wasn't that from a children's poem back in the day? Oh,
it was. And then Bart Simpson took it over on The Simpsons later with having to do his chalkboard exercises.
All right. So you mentioned room 217 that Stephen King stayed in, but the room to void in The Shining was room 237.
237. Yeah, and that's the one I just pulled up the banner for. So this room has a little key in the keyhole when Danny goes riding by on the big wheel, and just as Danny does, he's fascinated. He initially actually saw when he looked at the door, he saw the image of the twins, which were following him around, which ultimately we find out is the daughters of Delbert Grady, who had murdered his family. Cut them up in little pieces, stacked them neatly. Also, the wife as well.
They're not twins, by the way. They were.
They are not. That's right. That's right.
At least 2 years apart is what I heard.
And they kind of look like it if you really kind of stare them in the face. But then all of a sudden my skin starts crawling as I look at them for too long. So
I like the when they have been going to horror cons or whatever you want to call them these days, and it's the two girls standing next to each other holding their hands. You're like, creepy still today.
Very, very. But then, so he finally does go into 237. He walks into the room and then sees the naked young woman that's in the bathtub. So she pulls the curtain back. It's a PG-13 moment for everybody. Little and pixelated here because we're a classy show.
Yeah, no, and I want to point out though this shot was not actually in the hotel. This was in the Hollywood whatever production. Yeah. I mean that is a weird looking room to be in a hotel.
It's a bit. It's a suite, that's for sure. But so again, for those that haven't seen it, this turns into an old woman who's a ghost who's haunting the room and basically chases Danny out, and then and then later Jack Torrance tries to do a little hookup with the creepy lady, and it doesn't work out so well for him either. So, but interesting again, the facts, the young and the old woman never appeared in another movie again. So I don't know if they were cursed by the horror film or they just weren't that talented. But either.
All right, explain this. This is not a very long segment or even a recurring segment. So what gives in this one?
So interesting you bring that up. And this is towards when, again, the shit's hitting the fan at the very end. So this was not talked about in the movie. The guy in the dog suit that you see with the hotel manager in the book, Yeah, in the book, there was some sort of a affair that the hotel manager was having with some guy who liked to wear a dog suit, but that's really all that was ever talked about in the book itself. But it never was touched on, and that's some, maybe a little continuity thing. I mean, it creeped me the hell out. I mean, I still, to this day, every time I see somebody in a dog suit, I'm like, yeah.
What they call fur people nowadays.
The
Oh my God.
the furries. The
Furries.
furries, yes.
All right. So I need to ask you this as well, because researching and watching it again, I still kind of, is the Overlook, is it alive, or is it just him just having, or for instance, cabin fever is what I wrote down, and just, he had writer's block and he's just kind of losing it, and he sees all this and nobody else does. But yeah, it adds in a really amazing perspective to the movie.
Well, I will tell you again, without going into too much detail.
Because remember, he was an alcoholic, and then he apparently hurt his son back in the day 5 months ago, and he's been sober since.
Yeah,
there was a little confliction on that of that's true. And then of course now he saunters up to the bar that was empty, clearly shown when they gave him the tour, and now it's completely full with past patrons that look like they're from the 1920s. So
yeah, well, ultimately the sort of the theory behind this, because some of the investigations that Christine and I have done are in places that are 150 years old and were like centers of social activities like you see here. And when we've investigated those places, some of the voices that we catch on our gear in the background sort of is consistent with people just having a conversation, like they're on the other side of the veil having their own sort of thing going on, not even really even noticing that we're around. Or maybe if we're shining flashlights or we have our own equipment that's generating noise that's bothering them, that sometimes will elicit a reaction. So I think kind of what happened here was, he was kind of teetering on the reality, where he was kind of losing his stuff at this point. But I think he kind of leaned in, and maybe sort of the metaphorical association of him being a recovering alcoholic, maybe this conjured up the demons of his past. Maybe, who knows what the Kubrick's vision was for all that. But I think this was always going on at the hotel. I think there are places out there, I visited a few of them, where I think life goes on the other side of the veil, and I think that's what they're trying to personify within that particular scene. But then if you take it a step further, think back to when the drink got spilled on him by the waiter. So, so he goes in and goes into the bathroom with him, and that's sort of like the aha moment for the entire movie.
Right.
Because that's Delbert Grady, who was the person who had murdered his family. I guess it was, from the time of the movie, it was like 1971, so I guess 9 years before the movie. But this is his ghost. And
there's Charles Grady killed his family, but this is Delbert Grady.
That's how he identifies himself. But
you're like,
And then he's sort of standoffish at first about, because Jack basically he's kind of like, it's all, you can see all the little light bulbs going off. He's like, so wait a second.
Look at that bathroom.
You used to be the caretaker here. No, Mr. Torrance, you've always been the caretaker here. And then it really gets confusing. Yes. But then he tends to, he pokes a little bit and says, well, where's your wife and kids now? Well, they're around here somewhere. And then finally he says, well, the kids had to be corrected, so I corrected them.
Yes.
And then my wife, she needed to be corrected as well. So I corrected her. So it was that's sort of what set the whole. That was the I guess the
time for correction.
Yeah, there was a lot of correction going on from there, and that's really where the movie shifted gears. But yeah, but even again, going back to that other scene, though, again, I've always been of a firm belief, and if you remember, the one piece of art that I want you to commission for me one day is going to be something where you see something in the light, and then when you turn the light off, there's a whole nother reality that's within there.
Yes.
That's kind of been and I wasn't always this way. This took 5 years of heavy ghost investigations to say, yeah, all this shit's real. So
okay, well that's kind of another aspect of it I wanted to talk to you. The musical connections to interpretation, the literary allusions, the artwork meanings. There's so many things in the backgrounds that's on the walls that lead to an Indian like I think you mentioned in the beginning, in the opening. There's an Indian burial ground. There's so many. To me, I love movies that have the layers. Not to get ahead of ourselves, but Poltergeist, I don't think has much layers. But Stanley brings layers to this thing that, keeps a movie from 1980 still amazing to watch in 2025.
Yeah, it still sucks me in. Again, I couldn't believe I sat through it twice, and it was just like this is just and again, for its time, I mean, obviously, things have evolved 45 years later. And one thing to mention, though, so again, Stephen King was a big critic of the initial version of this, but there was a TV version that came out, I think it was 97, if I'm not mistaken. So the one thing from the book, for those that have read the book, there was these hedge animals that would sort of stalk people out there and would attack people out there if they weren't paying attention. So Kubrick was going to have that in the movie, but he couldn't do it as far as the special effects. I guess there wasn't in 1980, they didn't have the CGI that they needed to create something like that. So in 97, when they did the TV version, and it was a lot longer too, it was a mini series that was like, I think 5 hours long or something like that. They made the hedge animals happen. So made some progress there at least.
All right. You brought this up when we were kind of getting the show ready. Stanley Kubrick's, you called it perfectionism. There's an interview with Jack Nicholson and a few others that mentioned, how about this? When Jack is following Wendy up the stairs, and she has a baseball bat. She's horrible. She's horrible with the baseball bat, by the way.
Worst ever.
Yeah, it's like, how is this? But I think if you come away hating her, like, how is she such a wet noodle of a woman? Guess what? She nailed it. Yes. So you see her doing this thing with she actually lands a pretty good strike and is able to drag him away. But him coming up the stairs and her swinging the bat back and forth, they said that they did that like 80 takes or something. Yeah. Insane.
Yeah. Well, the thing that always bothered me from the first time I saw it is you knock the guy unconscious. Let's go finish the job. Let's hit him with the bat like 10, 12 more times, even though you swing like a sissy. Just get down there and finish the guy off. And then you go through the whole thing of dragging him into the freezer. And then, of course, Grady lets him out. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, okay, and then that's weird because if these are all ghosts, how does that latch come across? So,
well, they've got some power when they need it. So apparently, to let their caretaker out, they were happy to get that done. So,
okay, so just throw that out there, which is the Here's Johnny, which everyone should know. I thought that was interesting because I didn't know that, and it almost didn't make it into the movie. And like you said, it was shown in the UK with a bit of editing, and the people were like, "Why would we know who the hell?" Here's Johnny Carson reference.
Yep. Yeah.
Not even to get to the kid. I feel bad for the kid. Danny Lloyd, who plays actually Danny. Mm-hmm. But the whole red rum. What a great. I mean, they nailed that kid for casting. So at the end of the movie, if I'm not getting ahead of myself here, and you can tell me first of all, to back it up, 8.4 on IMDb, 84% in Rotten Tomatoes. The movie was made with $19 million budget and made $48 million in 1980, which is probably insane I'm out. But
That's a myth.
at the end of the movie, let's talk about this, because again, how does this tie in with Grady talking to him in the bathroom and then him dying at the end? Again, a movie from 1980. We're not giving any spoiler alerts here, Charlie.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. We have to do that with 40-year-old films. Well, wait a second. Let me not give away the ending. Well, I guess that's your own fault. Well, but like you were saying, with the art being so important as far as seeing different images and things like that. So this image that we're looking at now is, I think it was Overlook Hotel 1917. I think that's what that was labeled as. And basically, this is a New Year's Eve party. And as the shot comes tight in, you can see that it's
New Year's or July 4th.
That's what it was.
July 4th. Sorry.
So I guess, and I've and it can be interpreted a ton of different ways. I mean, I guess one way you could say is, maybe he was some sort of, evil spirit incarnate there that, maybe tied on to some other soul later on in life. I mean, maybe that had something to do with it, or maybe Jack was tied to Grady later on. Maybe he was the one that maybe possessed him to go do it. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can look at it, but I like sort of the leaving it kind of open-ended. You don't really necessarily have to have that ending that ties up like a nice bow, but it makes you think. You're like, where does it go from there? And if you he's actually released sort of the sequel to this, Doctor Sleep, which has been on some of the streamers fairly recently. And Stephen King was out in front of getting those produced. Even though he didn't like the movie version, he liked the TV version better. This Dr. Sleep thing he got behind. And I think there's a new season of that coming out. So I'd have to look that up. But yeah, that's a good one to search if you want to see the sequel to The Shining.
And if you watch The Shining, if you didn't know, which I didn't know again, but there's a lot of mirrors, there's a lot of reflections, and he's staring into a lot of those things. And that's when he sees a lot of his ghosts and apparitions and things like that. And I thought that was I'm like, wait a minute, really? Yeah. So I watched it. I'm going, look, yeah, he's looking at the mirror. Oh, he's looking at.
Yeah, never noticed that at all. And that's, again, the beauty of doing the deep dive. We do the hard work so you don't have to, but it's sure fun to do the digging. So,
well, for Charlie, be all work and no play makes Charlie a dull boy.
That's right. It makes me want to drink a beer.
Okay. Oh, you want to drink a beer? Okay, let's do this. All right.
I want a beer. Beer.
Wait, we should get some road beers, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should get some road beers.
No alcohol? This place sucks.
I can't take this much longer. I gotta have a beer. Brilliant.
Who doesn't like a beer? Well, now you can get the self-driven taxis here. That Zooks thing, you can get that here in Las Vegas now.
Oh,
so bring your own beer. Just load in and let the machine take care of it for you.
Are you off of your meds yet?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. And just for those who saw the last week episode with the DKML, the Dick Kicker malt liquor, it kicked me where I expected it to kick me when I was off the antibiotics. But we're free and clear now. Yeah, there you go.
I'm gonna have my beer with Pop Rocks.
Nice. That's the way to do it. Even makes a mediocre beer somewhat palatable, potentially.
All right, here we go.
Oh yeah, always fancy in a brew.
All right, I will head this up. I picked this up just almost like the last one. I should have used it during the arcade episode or arcade show, because when I saw it, I just saw this part on One Up.
Nice.
And nice. It has a tube from Mario, but it's 21 up. And this is 21 up lager from Barry Essa Brewing Company out of Winters, California.
Okay.
Been there. It's a small place, but out of the way, but phenomenal beer. They've won tons of awards. I think Cat's Meow or something about a cat is like rice lager. It's phenomenal.
Nice.
This is This might win the award for our lowest one, Charlie. This is 3.2%. It's brewed with Altos and organic wheat malt grown in Yolo County. This celebratory beer has full body for a light lager. Actually, it does. You turn 21 once, but this beer you can have again and again and again and again. So light lager, great.
Well,
what are you finally drinking?
Well, I would say with the 21 and over beer, I mean, I know for anybody who spent my 21st birthday with me, we definitely went higher than 3.2. But yeah, that would certainly allow for the uninitiated drinker to have a little bit longer night than I had that night. So probably a better choice. But as far as what I'm drinking this week, and I've been sitting on this baby for 2 weeks just waiting. So this one is this one's from Weldworks. That is a brewery out of Greeley, Colorado, which is also phenomenal. These guys come up with just some crazy flavor profiles, one-offs, and things like that. They're pretty big in smoothie sours as well. But this particular selection here in the beautiful Snigato Brewing pint glass right there is the this one's called the Kid in a Candy Store Milk Stout. So this is going to be your peanut caramel, nougat, chocolate bars, and milk sugar. It's what you think it is. It's certainly a very sweet beer. This is one that is probably more of a dessert beer, or I'd even maybe go as far as pouring this over some nice ice cream, or at least maybe fill a bowl with this beer and mix that up a little bit, or maybe throw the ice cream in the glass. Always a good idea.
With peanut caramel, nougat, chocolate, something... and milk. Good Lord, dude, really?
Chocolate bars and milk sugar. It's a diabetes in a glass, I'm fairly sure.
Sorry, folks.
So, but as far as the ABV, it's a 7%er, so about what you would expect from a milk stout. I mean, not too outlandish, not an imperial by any means, but certainly a good, refreshing beer to do the podcast to and to feature. Again, Weldworks is ridiculously good. I wouldn't put them in the class of Boulevard, but pretty damn close. So, but yeah, that's the Charlie Snyder heavy beer of the week.
Yeah, you've got two in the Boulevard category, buddy, already. So you need to spread the wealth.
Well, that's right.
Spread the wealth. All right, you want to move on?
Let's get spooky.
Let's get spooky indeed. Here we go. All right. We're going to move on to Poltergeist. I know Charlie's loading some images here for our folks. I just want to point out how scary our background looks. It's
pretty scary.
Yeah, I mean, they're not just two-eyed ghouls or ghosts. They're four-eyed ghouls or ghosts.
These are crazy.
All right, so while you load that up, Charlie, I'll give you some time here. All right, Poltergeist, and I'm going to bring up this banner because I thought this was a really neat initial banner, which is, what the hell does Poltergeist mean? It means it's German for noisy ghosts.
That's right.
So in 1982, Steven Spielberg was on a roll. We're going to get into the fact that he was shooting E.T. at the time, and Poltergeist, sort of. There's a bit of controversy here because he clashed sort of with Toby. I think it's Hopper, not Hooper. Well, you'll bring it up here in a minute when it comes to his inspiration for something like this. But this movie, same thing. 2 years later after Shining, I definitely didn't see this in the movie theater, but I was aware of it and then more than likely waited until the VHS. And of course, my parents, hey, can we get this? And then it was crazy because this changed. This is one of those movies. When you look at Shining, The Shining, you know, oh, I'm not going to go to a hotel in Colorado and be the last guests or be a caretaker. There's not a lot of things that I'm going to run across that's going to match what they did in The Shining. That's going to, oh, don't do that. But Poltergeist, you are in the suburbs. You have children. You've got a TV. You've got a pool. You've got a scary tree. All these things came up and going, how am I supposed to avoid this? It hit home with so many different families that this could happen to them.
It certainly could, and well, I did see it in the movie. That honestly, this was almost the segue from seeing The Shining at home to trying to convince my parents, hey, can we go see this? Because this was a PG. Because there was even a thing in the early when they rated the movie, it was going to be an R. And I know there was a lot of pushback. Spielberg had a little bit of sway in Hollywood back in those days, even though he was still kind of coming up, but he was able to get it down to a PG. So, young folks like me could go see it. But this was, this was a different animal. I mean, this was, and
very different.
This really, kind of captured sort of the I again watching it a couple times this weekend, sort of the suburban dream, like you said, settling the family in, everything's copacetic. He's a real estate agent, so he's sold a lot of the valley there, so he's kind of integral into the growth of the subdivisions, sort of as California was beginning to grow. And what this Simi Valley, again, the banner right there, the house still is there.
Yes, it's very there. And I said, why that particular house? And it's 37 minutes from the ET house.
That's crazy.
So there's hey, let's go here. And again, like I mentioned earlier in The Shining, do they just go up to the family and say, hey, we want to rent your house and we're going to give you this much money for you to just stay in a hotel while we do some crazy crap to your house, your house, and freaking freak out your neighbors, man. And of course, the house is never the same. I don't know. I don't get it, because we're going to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street eventually, but you can go to the house that was used in Poltergeist. Again, just the exterior. The interior was shot in Burbank and at the movie Hollywood Lots. But the the neighbors in a bunch of different documentaries, it was up until 3:00 in the morning. There was lights, there was noise, there was explosions, there was fire, there was all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it probably never ended, and it was annoying to them. But you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, it's just it's interesting again as the movie starts, and at the very beginning it's all very innocent, all these things that kids get easily freaked out about, the creepy clowns, like you said, the haunted tree outside. Oh man, that thing kind of freaks me out a little bit, but it really did sort of start innocently enough. It really became sort of a then the little girl put like a helmet on and kind of slide along the floor kind of stuff, and exactly stacking the chairs. Right. It became sort of a curiosity at first, and that's exactly after they had figured out the whole chair trick, that because the chairs were pulled out, so then they pushed them all in, and then they turned their back and they came back, and here we go, we've got the fancy stacking. But they sort of, it's interesting though. Again, theoretically, the people always say the more attention that you give spirits, the more energy that you're enabling them with, so they can do more. And that's again in this case, built on top of an Indian burial ground. That energy is probably already there, but again, giving it attention probably is what sort of manifested what was going to happen. But it got a little bit more sinister after that, I would have to say.
Yeah, and as I mentioned during the Shining portion, this had first of all, it was we're gonna build up, and show off our skills of special effects and just go ape shit.
Right.
Almost like the last 25 minutes of the film was just, hey, I got a great idea. Let's do this. Constant barrage of insanity. And I think a few people called it just simple, dumb, and silly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was one of the highest grossing films in 1982. It did lose to E.T. in pretty much every single category, but it had neat things about it that just made sense. Again, the Indian burial ground, the earthquake. So it was probably, it wasn't fun for any of the actors to make, but it was almost a playground for the directors to come up with these ideas and just toss them into the movie.
Well, the thing that really kind of resonated with me, again, I haven't watched this movie for probably 15 years, again, through my ghost career as far as investigations, but middle of the movie, here comes the group of investigators, and they had sort of the, technology of 1982, which essentially consisted of a video camera. I guess he was bragging about it I have it on time lapse. Ooh, that's a fancy feature in 1982, isn't it? But he was they didn't really know what they were getting themselves into, and it's when it got a little heavier, they ended up calling in the little lady that was in, I can't remember what her name is, but
that's Zelda Rubinstein and Tangia.
No. And she was in 16 Candles, which
she was, she was the girl that lady that walked down the aisle.
Talked about her greasy bohunk fiance or something like that.
She's 4'3" tall.
That's crazy.
And she passed. So there you go.
R.I.P. You generally write them off.
I do. Well, this had a lot of them though. I mean, she, Heather O'Rourke, passed away at an early age from just health complications, and her sister, Dominique Duane, she was 22 when she was strangled by her boyfriend in Hollywood. So they had this curse. You mentioned it just a couple of seconds earlier, but the whole, do you remember True Hollywood Stories?
Sure.
What a crap show there was back in the day. You got and then disaster happened. That stupid voiceover guy that comes in. They focused on the dumbest things and the curse of Poltergeist, and it's so over the top. But I want to say this on our channel right here: Netflix, you suck. And most of the other subscription services are out there suck. Seriously, you can't even watch a movie from 1980 and 1982. Come on,
you gotta have HBO Max.
Oh my gosh, it's so stupid. Oh, it will be available on October 24th. Oh, because of Halloween. Anyway.
Well, it's interesting how the producers protected the child actors. Go back to The Shining. Danny didn't know that was a horror film until he was 17. He never saw the unedited version. Yeah. So with her hanging on to the headboard there, apparently she was so upset after that scene. Spielberg rushed onto set, was holding her, trying to comfort her and everything, and assured her that she wasn't going to have to do that again. So it's interesting, and I always kind of thought about that. These child actors, again, Drew Barrymore was in E.T. and kind of worked towards that direction. But man, there are some screwed up child actors. I'm not saying that in a negative sense, but I think a lot of early success really messed these people up. So I think it was nice to see that at least the producers were trying. At least I think so.
No, and you had a banner up there writing Drew Barrymore was considered for the role, but then he had her separated. Hey, no, I want you for E.T. And obviously that was a good choice. But Heather O'Rourke went on to do all three Poltergeists, which I didn't do the research, but I wanted to look up when did probably Halloween, to be honest with you, the whole sequel trend happen with horror movies, because it just, after a while, stop it. But it's funny because you watch the documentary on Poltergeist and they said, oh, well, we're going to do number 2. Well, you know why? Well, have you seen the paycheck they're willing to give me? They gave him a big,
Exactly.
but the third one, come on, after a while, if you have to change the original characters and the location, it just gets ridiculous over the top.
I think maybe back in the 80s, I guess, there wasn't as much in that same medium as far as that many different horror movies. Like, that's why Halloween pulled off, 12 sequels, and Friday the 13th did like 10, I mean,
Yeah.
eventually, again, the plot lines run a little thin, but if you like watching people get chopped up or get sucked into a closet in this particular case, that's probably the movie for you. But yeah, it's certainly, I don't know that there's ever been a horror sequel that was ever better than the original, although I'd like to think that. Maybe Nightmare on Elm Street, maybe. I really liked a couple of the sequels, but probably the original, I would say, was the best one.
All right, so you can actually again get the house, and it's going for was going for $1.1 million, and they're saying that it's going to be sold. It used to be able to be rented out like an Airbnb, and they had the props. Obviously, they weren't directly from the movie, but you could, the chairs were, last time I checked, the chairs were still legit. The kitchen was still legit looking. There was a clown doll, all these things. So it's you. It's people like you, Charlie, who go to these locations and check this place out because they think it's really neat, and yeah.
So with the picture we're showing right now, and this was something I researched a few years ago, and I doubted what I had read, but these skeletons that were in that pool scene, according to the research, were real.
Oh yeah.
And they didn't tell Joe Beth Williams until after the movie.
No.
Which, if I would have known that before, I'm probably not diving in there. But it's just the reasoning was, well, it was just going to be too complicated to get fake stuff and put all that together. So so many questions.
so many questions.
I mean, I guess you could approach back in the day, because remember Fast Times at Ridgemont High, they went to go visit the morgue and they did stuff there. So if I'm on a movie and I show up at the morgue and say, hey, I need 20 bodies to toss in a pool. We're getting ready to shoot a scene here. We're going to chuck this lady in the pool. How cooperative are they really going to be? But I don't know. I mean, I still am skeptical of this.
Money.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, yeah, tip the morgue guy. Oh yeah, I'm all done with that corpse. Yeah, go, you guys take it.
All right. So let's wrap it up here. 7.3 on IMDb, and it got higher on the Rotten Tomatoes. 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. Trust me, it was entertaining. It moved. It did what it needed to do in 1982, and people certainly came back and did what they wanted to see more, feel more. I mean, it's a Steven Spielberg movie. Again, there's a clash, but ultimately, it made sense. And the Craig T. Nelson was phenomenal. The steak, and there's all kinds of other stuff. It was great. Yeah, there was a lot of
next level special effects. They used everything they had in their tool belt, I think, for 1982 at that point.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this was, and again, remember, Tron was 1982, so again, just scratching the surface on being able to actually produce this sort of stuff. But just pretty amazing stuff. But again, I look back on it with a lot of fondness. I mean, that was sort of when I was just getting into horror and everything, and I'm like, man, this stuff looks so real. Who knows? Maybe one day I can go investigate haunted houses. Maybe.
Yeah. So, all right. I know we're gonna get ready to move into your Oh, that's cool. I forgot that we had that one. We can't really see the cool background, but it's really good, folks. Trust me. Hey, matter of fact,
I see you.
Yeah, look at that. All right.
There it is.
Yeah, and I will tell you this while you set up the next segment. I didn't care about Poltergeist 2, Poltergeist 3. I had moved on.
Yeah.
As a young kid, life moves so fast, like Ferris Bueller said.
That's right.
That you turn your attention to something else and you go for it. But I will tell you these movies have that ability to stick with you. So I mentioned before, I got a 13-year-old daughter. So I'm like, hey, do you want to watch Poltergeist? So we watch Poltergeist. And it's almost a guarantee that you're going to get one night of a screaming kid coming into your room at 2:00. Like, what the hell's going on? Luckily, we don't have a lot of trees around our house here in California, but we certainly did when we were in Maryland, in Pasadena, which was an older neighborhood and community, which I did take your advice. And for eventually our mega followers from Pasadena and Chesapeake High School, I looked up things like, all right, if I went back to Pasadena and I wanted to see some like ghost action. So again, out in Nevada, out in California, we don't have things like the Civil War, the Revolutionary War. We don't have battlefields that the people back east do. So props to that. And for instance, Annapolis, which I believe used to be the capital of the colonies or whatever, the United States. The Revolutionary War they have a connection there at the Maryland State House. People think there's a Revolutionary War soldier walking around. There's the Lord Baltimore Hotel. Samuel A. Mudd, who's that? His wife haunts their house, their museum, because Samuel A. Mudd was at one time, they thought, a conspirator an accomplice to John Wilkes Booth, who shot President Abraham Lincoln, who attended, because he was a doctor, attended to his broken leg and helped provide aid. Point Lookout, which I don't remember where that is, but it used to be a Civil War prison. Fletchertown Road. There's a Goat Man. I don't even know about that one, but Glendale Hospital. Jonathan Hager, which was the founder of Hagerstown, and of course, Civil War battlefields in general. Antietam battlefield saw 23,000 Americans dead in a day. One of the bloodiest, if not the bloodiest, single day casualties in our history. That has to draw in some insane amount of ghost activity and so forth. So
it's wild out there. It's wild out there.
It's wild. Yeah,
We've investigated Gettysburg. Obviously one of the bloodiest battles ever. We went out, hung out in the woods with a guide. I said, just go set me up in the battlefield. I'm going to walk out into the woods. I'm going to investigate for 2-3 hours. You can stay if you want. And we got all kinds of activity, but we'll share that on a different show. But just to kind of as we're segueing into the next segment, though, wanted to talk a little bit about sort of how I got into ghost investigations. I was one of those skeptics that sort of said, well, I believe in ghosts. And as like the TV shows are starting to come out, I said to myself, well, I think that's real, but I think they might be setting up their gear, or maybe they're just, loading things on, now it's 2013 and maybe there's enough tech where they can, sort of plant all these different voices. So interesting story. And it's funny you mentioned Mr. Mudd. Mr. Mudd was actually imprisoned down in the Dry Tortugas, which is 70 miles west of Key West, which was actually, it was a Civil War prison. And he did some time there and helped out a lot of the folks in that prison, which actually got him a little bit of a lighter prison sentence. He was released a little bit early. But my hobby started in Key West in 2014. Right. That's kind of what it was. We were actually, Christine and I were sitting in this legendary beer bar called The Porch, which is defunct in 2018, but always fond in my heart. But we actually got to meet a man by the name of David Sloan, who, as I was asking Christine, hey, do you want to do a ghost hunt, or maybe we can find something to do? David walks into the porch, sits in the opposite corner of the bar, and he has like a toolkit I'm like, what does that guy have on? What does he have with him? So I asked the bartender, Landon, who's that guy over there? Oh, he runs the ghost hunt here since the 90s. Oh, okay. So I was able to get an introduction. Long story short, the porch was actually, it's an old 1860s circa mansion, where all of the rich millionaires lived. And Dr. Porter used to treat yellow fever in Key West, as there was a big epidemic back in the 1870s. Long story short, they evolved into lots of different things, but Landon introduced me to David. Once the bar closed, we sat there at the bar and we actually started investigating. He had all his gear, so we were asking back and forth different questions. Like,
he just invited you just because you were so curious?
Yeah, I told him that I had a curiosity and that I had some things happen. So I said, well, he's like, well, let's wait till some people get out of here and we'll start playing around. So a couple of the highlights, asking questions into the SB7 spirit box. So for people who don't know what that is, that's the staticky thing on the ghost show that goes.
You don't have a picture of it?
I can kind of get to something like that. If we go to
or we'll share it on our pages.
Well, actually, if you look here, this is Christine at our Whaley House investigation 2015. Inside of her hand is the actual SB7 spirit box, but you hook it to a speaker so that way it enhances the voice of the spirit. And they always say theoretically they can speak through that frequency. It's usually better to be in an area like Key West that doesn't have a whole lot of AM stations, because you're using an AM station to kind of cycle back and forth. But we actually, in the porch that night, we got legit answers like, what color shirt does Landon have on? Yellow, which that's what he had on. How many people were in the bar? 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, you're counting yourself. Okay, 5, 6. Okay. So things like that. And there was the one thing, we had a round spirit board that had a yes, yes, no, no kind of thing.
Like a Ouija kind of thing?
Similar to that, but what the idea behind this type of a board is, you hold a pendulum over top of it, and as you ask questions, you're not putting any pressure on the pendulum, and it's supposed to go in whatever direction that you ask. So we asked a few questions. It was moving to the yes and was moving to the no. Wow. So then me, the ever-loving skeptic, says, well, that's pretty impressive, but is there anything else that you can do to let us know that you're here? So the pendulum was actually Christine's charm bracelet. So as we were holding it over top of it, one of the little leaves on it just started to spin like a little roulette wheel, just on its own. There's no inertia or anything like that that's creating that, but it started to spin. I said, can you stop that? Within 5 seconds, it stops the little spinning going around. I said, could you do it again? So there was another thing on the charm bracelet that started spinning around, and okay, I'm sold. So, but ultimately that week we did a private hunt with David at the Key West Theater, which was under renovations at the time, which was the first time I ever had a spirit actually go into me, which was pretty nauseating.
Let me ask you this though. Is one of the first initial 5 questions, are you here to do us harm? Is that asked initially of, are you angry, or are you going to hurt us? Is that brought up at all?
Usually we present ourselves with, we come in peace. We just want to communicate with you, ask some questions, not, oh, we're here with cameras and we want to exploit this interaction so we can put it on YouTube and make a bunch of money.
YouTube,
we hate YouTube. So, but it was really a game-changing.
Mythbusters, assholes.
Oh my God! But it was a game-changing week for us. I mean, That
was it. That was your hook. That was your hook.
That was the hook, and then I started buying all my own gear. I guess that's the.
How much is a spirit box, or was a spirit box?
So the SB7 spirit box you can probably buy on Amazon for about $80. Other things like dowsing rods, that's a water witch tool. I mean, they're like $20. Yeah, doesn't cost anything for something like that.
Okay.
Other things that I graduated to. Paranormal Puck 2, which is a fantastic device. by Bill Chappell, who invents a lot of paranormal type things. It's basically a word bank. So you have an app, you run you 2 questions through that. And I swear I used to be a skeptic of this until I've gotten so many like direct engagements on investigations where I didn't feed them that information. They're providing me with that information. So it's just a lot of things that have sold me. But then what we'll show later on in life on our shows is my Wonder Box, which actually was built for me by a paranormal inventor. That was a pretty penny. That actually cost me close to $1,000. That one, but changed the game. Made the SB7 the staticky type of responses that you get crystal clear, and that really became really just an amazing tool for what we were trying to do at the time, which we weren't really sure at the time. It was a compelling hobby, but later we find out that it's a little scary sometimes when spirits like to go.
Oh, I can only imagine. What's this photo?
So this is in the Whaley House, and just to give a little background on the Whaley House. So the Whaley House was it's in Old Town San Diego. So it was actually built in 1863, I believe. Used to be the hanging ground for downtown San Diego. So the story behind it is there was a horse thief named Yankee Jim who had been convicted a few times, and I guess he was convicted enough to where it was time for him to be hanged. So there's an old picture of this property that had Yankee Jim supposedly struggling on the noose. Apparently it took him about a half hour for him to actually die because he was, I guess, a very tall man and they didn't set the gallows right. So it took a little while longer for him to die. But then James Whaley, this wealthy businessman from New York, says, I think I'm going to build my mansion here. So he ends up buying the property from the city and ends up building his beautiful property. The property is there in the background. That's me in a younger time, 10 years ago, with the Sloan's Ghost Hunt swag on. So again, shout out to David. But basically, this was for Old Town San Diego. This was a courthouse. As you can see there in the picture, this was an active courthouse for them. It was also a general store. People would come there to buy just random kind of things. Again, it's the 1860s. There's not a whole lot of stuff you can get, but they opened that up, and the family lived up on the second floor and part of the first floor. So what I've got to show as far as this is, again, we on this hunt, and mind you, this was the first time we had ever done sort of our own investigation. So the way the Whaley House did it at that time was Christine and I were basically assigned for 2 museum docents. So the docents were there with us after hours. The place was closed, so it was really just us 4 that were in the house doing the investigation. So the crazy part about this, again, we were rookies. I mean, we really had no idea what we were going to hear, whether we were going to get any evidence at all. But the one interesting thing that I didn't share with you before, Paul, was 2 years ago, we had come to this house on just a day visit. So we had an audio recorder, a digital recorder. Christine tucked it in her nether regions up top here, and we just did a walk around of the house to see if we could maybe catch any audio. So all you hear is just the other people and yada, yada, yada for like 10 minutes. So we go upstairs to the second floor to the playhouse, and all of a sudden on the earphones, when we're reviewing the evidence, we hear like 90 seconds of like old-timey music. And we're like, what the hell is that? Because there was nothing going on outside. There was no, saloon music going on outside. So we thought we attributed it to maybe some residual energy. To those who don't know, residual energy is essentially energy or sounds that imprint themselves on a certain place or a period of time. And sometimes you can pick it up in like a digital recording. So that's ultimately what this was. And the interesting part was, years later, I read this Field Hunter's Guide to Ghost Investigations. Somebody who did the Whaley House got the exact same piece of evidence that we got. He goes, it was the strangest things. I sounded like I was in a Beefsteak Charlie's, which was an old player piano place here in the U.S. But yeah, it's just crazy how that was consistent. So ultimately, again, we get into the Whaley house, we meet our docents, so we start laying out some of our gear around the place. So again, the picture of Christine there showing some of the chairs. Actually, that was up in the playhouse. So this would be, if I go to the courthouse here. So we had those chairs you could see set up there in the background. And then to the right of that, you basically had rows of where people would sit in the courthouse.
Oh, and so the implication is that this is where they actually sentenced.
They did.
The judgment?
They did.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny. They actually, a few years ago, we visited here actually back in April. They actually tried a case in here just to it was a historical society thing, but it was an actual case that they tried in here. But back in the day, I mean, this was, real court cases being tried in San Diego. This was their, essentially almost their county seat, I guess, to a lack of a better word. So first piece of evidence that we captured, we set our digital recorder on one of the benches in the courthouse. This piece of evidence popped up literally 30 seconds into when we had sat this down. We basically had sat the recorder down. We walked away. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. And what you're going to hear is a gravelly voice. It almost sounds like a miner's voice, or even like maybe just a gruff person from like 150 years ago. But it's, for some reason, it sounds like he's talking about syphilis. So take a quick listen to the clip and let me hear what you think.
Okay.
So it's the last three words of the clip that came from the recorder, and we didn't hear that in real time. Afterwards, as we listened to our recorders, that's when we heard that. So we had no idea that whoever this syphilis sufferer was talking in the background there. So that was kind of interesting. A few minutes later,
well, just hearing the voice alone, roll, like what?
And
and again, you and Christina, you're the only ones in the room.
We're the only two in the room. The docents were actually upstairs at the time, so that was the only two possibilities that could have been. So, but the Whaley House goes back as far as its haunted reputation. Real quick, Regis Philbin was actually the one that made this a popular place. I think like in the '60s, one of those crappy magazines that like grandma used to have, like Parade or some crap that they used to have. Apparently it might as well have been, but apparently Regis was a correspondent. This is way back before him and Kathy Lee got together, but he went to the Whaley House and it scared the shit out of him. He saw an apparition. He saw all kinds of different things in there that just made him a complete doubter to, holy crap, I don't ever want to go in that place ever again. And that kind of put that place on the map. And that's why the Historical Society eventually intervened and took that place over. And now it's actually owned by a third party. Now it's not owned by the state of California. But anyway, I digress. So the next one I'm going to share, this actually came from the same recorder, but this was at about the 5-minute mark. So again, we're walking around the courthouse just with our own gear, trying to find stuff going on. And then we hear this little girl's voice. It still gives me chills to this day. I just heard that. I'm like, whoa. So that's the SB7, so that's projecting through the box. So that's through the speaker. So that's what you hear going back and forth. But but this was actually, the recording was actually into the audio recorder. It wasn't through the SB7. She just spoke right into the recorder. That's how we heard it. But yeah, I still get chilled. That's 10 years that was 10 years ago that we did that. And oh my God, still
okay.
Me out.
So again, to paint a picture, you're sitting there on chairs, you have the machine out, and it's there so that the spirit could speak into it, that you can't hear through just normal audio, but it goes through the machine and then it projects out.
That's right.
Is it projecting as it's happening through the machine?
Well, later in my career, so the recorder, one of the recorders I used to use, I could actually plug in a headphone jack to it so I could walk around on an investigation and I could hear it in real time. That was like
Got
my
it.
hack to it. I was like, okay, I want to hear this happening. So I always had a recorder hooked up to my headphones so I could kind of link it all up.
Yeah, because they would probably want an interaction. They don't want you to just be one way conversation, and then you go, "Hey, well, see you later." And they're like, "I asked you a question, and you're just walking away." You know.
What's interesting is all the leading ghost shows. I can't remember the name of the brand right now, but there was always like this gold standard digital recorder that was very, because really the thing is you want to be able to record 3 minutes of audio, but then play it right back. I mean, that's the perfect scenario. So this particular digital recorder had a very good speaker on it. So you could do that 3-minute session and then, okay, let's all play it back and listen to see if there's something that just happened versus, okay, well, let me put my headphones on and completely disengage from the investigation. And it just doesn't work that way. So, but that little old recorder that they used to use, they're like $1,000 on eBay. Apparently the company doesn't make them anymore, or there's not really like an effective solution for that. So that's just one of those stupid ghost things that we deal with.
How long were you at the house?
So the Whaley house, you rent by the hour. So we were actually there for 2 hours. We were there from like 10 o'clock to midnight or something of that nature. And it's funny, the docents had told us that we don't know why, Charlie, but the ghosts always will set the alarm off usually between 11:45 and 11:50, even though, as you can see, we disengaged it. And it's funny, right around that same time as we were wrapping up, I don't know who the hell does it, but the alarm went off in the house at that point, which is kind of funny.
like somebody's broken in.
Yep.
And then they're done. Get out.
Yep. And there was another ghost. I'm sorry, Holzer Files was there, which is another ghost show that was on for a couple of years. Same kind of thing. Alarm went off. Actually, the lead investigator, Dave Schrader, who I was honored enough to meet a few years ago, he got pushed to the ground. He was literally pushed to the ground during the investigation. He said he felt hands on him and it pushed him over. So, I mean, the place
part of rest in peace don't you understand?
No, they're not in. They're certainly not into that. So real quick, I'll share another one here. So I talked about residual energy. So remember I mentioned it was a general store. So
and let me ask you this too. Beyond the static machine, the nomenclature that you mentioned, forgot. Do you take anything else in there? I know you mentioned the word thing, and then of course the pendulum, but beyond that, I mean, if you have an idea that you're going to interact with spirits that have been affected by tragedy or a certain bauble or family heirloom, to be able to have that and showcase that and say, is this what you missed? Is this what you remember? All those things. That'd be so crazy to do that.
We call those trigger objects.
Okay.
So here's a good example. Now this is a crazy one. This is not Whaley House. This was actually the first time that I investigated the Washoe Club up in Virginia City, which again, we'll give that on another show, but ultimately it was the Millionaires Club for Virginia City, an old silver mining town. The back room, there was a card room there. They used to bring the prostitutes in, and it was like a shoot.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it was a solid place. There was a couple American presidents that actually played cards in that room. But we were there with my friend Chad and his girlfriend at the time. Me, Christine, and those two were sitting at the card table, and it's the old style cards are on there. So we throw $1 on the table and say, "Hey, we want to get into the hand."
Oh, no way!
Nothing happens.
Oh,
So
okay.
Dad takes out like $100 bill, puts it out on the table, and says, "We want to be dealt in." So as we're looking at the $100 bill, something flips the freaking bill over, and there's no breezes. There's no. I mean, there's no air conditioning in this place. The inertia flipped the bill, and my camera that was fixed on that card table the battery got sucked out of it right before that happened. And then we felt a large tingly spirit sit between Christine and I, which basically froze us in between. I mean, it's just crazy, but that's ultimately what that trigger object did. You know, we dealt ourselves into the hand, and all of a sudden we got somebody touching the money and then actually sitting down in between us, which still is a chilling thing to think about. But yep, that was crazy. You see why it's a habit / hobby. You know, it's pretty. So here's a quick one here. While we're back at the Whaley house, I mentioned James Whaley was the owner. So his family obviously lived in the house. I remember one of his daughters died tragically. She, I guess, had broken up with her boyfriend, and she had actually shot herself in the heart, of all things. So she came running into the house and apparently died there in the parlor. So, you know, that was a tragic thing. A couple of the other ones had died of some different, you know, diseases of the time. But one of the descendants, George Whaley, is very active on ghost investigations. I've seen, again, on other shows, I've seen him be the person that identifies himself as far as who he is and where he's at in the house. And we had asked George, because he had already identified himself by name, and we could hear that through our SB7. We said, hey, George, how many people are in the room? So this clip here is him answering through our SB7 spirit box.
Okay.
So pretty clear. It's 5 and it's 4. It's us 2, the docents, and he's naming himself as the 5th. So just pretty creepy shit. But and it's funny.
At home or wherever you're watching this, if you're still doubtful, okay, the audio is a hell of a lot better in person to hear it than probably what we're offering you on this show. But we did this on my previous podcast, and it is creepy. So
it's pretty crazy. So
doubters, go visit Charlie in Las Vegas, and you will see.
Yeah, it's gay. I haven't even seen that. So the last 2 clips I'll share from this. I mentioned residual energy. So again,
the fact that somebody's actually answering you, that's the crazy part.
Intelligent answers, you know, again, getting it right. You know, like it's not, you know, they're not just saying a random number. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yeah. Okay. You're counting yourself, and they always count themselves, which is, I think that's tremendous.
Here's somebody years and years from now, bringing up the spirit of Charlie Schneider. Hey, Charlie, and answer is this. And Charlie's like, I'm not going to answer that, but I'm going to talk about this. And they're like, hey, look, Charlie, we got to go, buddy. You're just rambling on right now.
Oh yeah. I could definitely see that.
I like how succinct they are. These apparition ghosts. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the funny thing is about that same voice is 10 minutes later, we were in a different room. We were in the kitchen there, and we asked the same question. And it said, I already told you.
Oh.
No bullshit. That I was like, oh, okay, sorry, we don't ask the same question twice. But I thought that was kind of
didn't
funny
you hear me before? Oh.
I was a little frustrated with the same question. So this clip is going to be something we sat a second recorder in the general store. We weren't even in the room. This was something we heard a little bit later. But again, remember, general store, old-timey cash register.
Yep.
So, you know, when I first heard that clip, I said, we had to be in there shooting pictures or something. You know, something had to create that noise. But there was nobody else there. I mean, the docents were with us, so it wasn't anybody shooting pictures or sneaking in behind us. Again, maybe it was the cash register, maybe not. But yeah, there was nothing in there that was creating that noise. So again, just kind of a weird thing. But really,
I do remember that one from the show. Is you asked that, and you can hear that that cash register going. I'm like, oh my gosh.
So back to this picture. So where I'm sitting, so this is the last 5 minutes of the hunt. I'm sitting in that chair and I have dowsing rods in my hand. And dowsing rods,
okay.
for those that have never used dowsing rods, but since the 1500s, people have used this to find water.
Yeah.
Which has always used the dowsing rods, and apparently it's sort of evolved into that's exactly it. You basically say, go in the middle for yes, move out for no. I mean, it's fairly cut and dried. Cheapest piece of ghost equipment you'll ever get. But I would tell you that it's probably my favorite piece, because when you really kind of get yourself sort of tuned into what you're around, like I was sitting in that chair for a few minutes, just asking some baseline questions. Did you die here? What's your, is your name George? Is your name James? And just baseline. And that's how you do with a dowsing rod. They're not going to answer you with a sentence. You got to go yes or no. So you got to kind of think about your questions beforehand.
Okay.
So the one that was the killer for me was, who am I sitting below? That's George Washington up on the wall.
Okay. I was going to ask you that question.
So the question I posed was, so
Thomas
who I'm
Jefferson?
communicating with, he shares the same first name as you. Can you tell me what his last name is? 2 seconds later, Washington. And I'm like,
what?
I said, get the out of here. I was like, you got to be shitting me. I didn't have a great clip to share, or that would have been what would have went with this. But man, that was just so validating for me as we wrapped it up. But the one I got to share before we stop talking about this and we'll get to the music is the Playhouse upstairs. So kind of the story behind that is the Playhouse basically was used by the Tanner Troupe, which was a local, I guess, comedy troupe or whatever they did. They had this separate room where they held their shows. So if you see up there on the stage, you've got that organ that we had showed before. So you've got that little piece there, and then basically we're back here in the crowd. So while we were downstairs investigating, we heard a chair scraping up above us. We asked the docents, "Is there anybody up there?" No, all those chairs are going to be straight when we go up there, but one of the ones on the corner had been turned by, I guess, whatever spirits populate the house. So we were intrigued. So we went up there and we said, all right, we're going to ask these folks, what type of plays did you put on in this room?
Podcast.
So, yeah, exactly. They should have done that.
In the 80s and 90s, 1880s and 1890s.
Right. A different time. So we presented that to them. So you're going to hear a little bit of the as we go through this, but listen, you're going to hear comedy said 3 different times and not by any of us. So let her roll.
Okay. Comedy.
With a little bit of a British accent on top of it. That was actually a British troupe from what I had read about. So
tick, 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 tick. Is that part of the machine? Tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, it's just because basically the SB7 is cycling through radio stations. So it goes through the frequencies back and forth. You can set it at whatever different speeds that you want. But one last thing, again,
okay.
We'll move on. So one picture that we got that I can share. We were wrapping up, and this is right before I went and sat in the chair over in the far corner.
George Washington.
I said, we're wrapping up the investigation, everybody. Do any spirits want to be seen? And what you do, if you ever want to try to capture spirits, is you take consecutive pictures. So that way, if there is an anomaly in one of the pictures, you'll notice that. So what you're looking at right now is the picture that I took first. And then the second picture that I took, if you'll notice, there is a different component to it. If you look down by the leg of that table there, by the judge's bench, you
Yeah,
see
go
a little
back.
orb down there. So let's go back to the original one.
Oh, go right, go
No-
back.
No
Go back.
orb, and then we go back to it, and then you see the orb. And that this was a set of like 5 pictures I took in a row. This was frames 1 and 2.
This
and
is
then
you just
frame
going.
three.
This is you just doing this.
That's exactly what I do. Just bing, 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 bing. Just keep taking consecutive ones. That way you can always compare to see if is that a reflection, is that a shadow. You know, you always have to kind of look at evidence with the attitude of debunking it, saying that had to be something, normal. But sometimes you find stuff like this, and orbs are always debated in the paranormal community. Oh, it's just dust, or it's an insect, or stuff like
Dust
that.
particle.
And sometimes they're right. I mean, again, I'm not somebody who just buys into every little thing that I see, but I know what I was in the middle of at this point, and there was activity the entire night. So it was just a validation. But as we move forward with our career, we got a lot more video and a lot more stuff to capture these things. But not too bad for a rookie outing, I would say.
Yeah, I'm sure that was definitely hook, line, and sinker right there. And I know that you do travel to San Diego often and quite enjoy the haunts, the historic haunts of San Diego.
There's plenty.
And Nevada. There's plenty too.
Cosmopolitan Hotel is literally 200 yards from the Whaley House, and I investigated that one a couple years later. It had its own character, that's for sure. Not as active as the Whaley House, but there was plenty there. So, but yeah, San Diego is awesome. Just great place in a lot of ways.
That is pretty cool, man. I mean, again, we will get into more of this, just because guess what, folks? It's October and it's the haunting month. So yeah, we're definitely gonna try to bring more of this, and we hope to be around next year this time. So we're gonna bring more at that time as well. Yeah,
maybe even some scary music into the mix.
I think it just did. But I will tell you this, Charlie. I know that you do enjoy visiting San Diego. So on one of your next visits, maybe we'll do a bit of a remote show, and you can showcase all the crazy. Because I know you do the haunting, but you also visit some beautiful breweries there.
We try. I don't know that Stone or Ballast Point's haunted, but they're certainly haunted with my
with you.
Yeah, exactly. My stain, my residual energy is always on those bar stools. That's for sure.
Who's haunting this area? Who's haunting this brewery? Charlie is.
It's Vegas Charlie. He's here drinking all of our IPAs.
My beer isn't topped off.
That's right. I'm coming at you.
That's gonna be my ghost. Are you a ghost that's half full, glass half full, or glass half empty? Half empty, jackass.
That's right.
Top me off.
They had a hell of a zombie juice there when we were there in October the last time around. So Stone's always good for a couple good Halloween haunts. Even Chocovesa is a fall beer. So
isn't that the name of your dog?
That is in the spirit of Stone. I like Stone that much that my dog is named after one of their finest beers.
Your bulldog is named after it. Wonderful. All right, let's go. Let's do it. Right? Let's rock out.
Time for tunes.
All right. Might as well put on some music. What would you like to hear?
All right, so let's go into mine.
All
right. So I'm taking a page out of Charlie's book here, and I'm trying to give a little bit more oomph to my picks. I've converted, folks.
That's
watch, show 2, 3, 4, whatever, and I just I didn't understand it. So now I've converted. It's
in your blood. It's in your blood.
Charlie has possessed me. All right. First up is Oingo Boingo. We've talked about them quite a lot on this show. Matter of fact, their music is in Back to School, Rodney Dangerfield, Bachelor Party, Tom Hanks, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, pretty much every single Tim Burton film, Batman, Edward Scissorhands, whatever. There's probably 5 after that.
Weird Science.
Yeah, Weird Science. Danny Elfman he obviously is the heart of Oingo Boingo, and he obviously has gone on to do the Tim Burton stuff, The Simpsons, Tales from the Crypt, Desperate Housewives, whatever. Donnie Darko.
He had his hands on damn near everything, I think.
I read that somebody said Danny Elfman and Mothersbaugh from Devo pretty much own the TV cartoon world of composing. Anyway, Fast Times, Donnie Darko. Yes, Danny Elfman is, or would you consider, the leader of Oingo Boingo. It was formed in 1979 by Danny Elfman's brother, who led the group initially, and then Danny joined and then took over from him. It was formed in Los Angeles. It was a ska band initially. They were inspired by Devo and Madness, also featured on our show. Yes. So, but the Weird Science song reached number 45 on the Billboard 100. They're not a commercial based band, very much like what Devo wasn't. They didn't care about that. They cared about just, producing and having fun. They lasted until 1995, where they did a farewell concert tour on Halloween. If you listen to all their songs, or most of their songs, there is a very Halloween, scary-esque type of angle. Crazy, beautiful, and this is me giving props to not Danny Elfman, but the a plethora of artists who joined Oingo Boingo over the years and provided amazing instrumental and vocal work. But beautiful stuff. And when his brother was in charge in 1976, they actually won the Gong Show. That's going back to where our parents and stuff. So
unknown comic.
All right. So here's Dead Man's Party. A lot of people can, you could play that song over and over in different settings, different movies. Somebody was talking about why wasn't it used in the latest Wednesday Netflix special during their little graduation party or whatever it was at their school. But
that song was totally in Weird Science. I remember the guys dancing around to that dumb shit.
It's a great song. It's beautiful. And his voice is so unique and different. All right. Next song would be Ministry from 87. Every Day is Halloween. Yeah, and I'll throw this out there to you, Charlie, and the audience. Looking up scary songs to showcase on our show, there's so many choices. It's ridiculous. It's a commercial entity that a lot of bands, some of them naturally just gravitate towards this stuff. There's some heavy metal, which again, Charlie will cover the heavy metal always, but there's just a exploration into that type of a musical genre. Some of them play around with it. DJ Jazzy Jeff and that kind of crap. Fat Boys got into this stuff, and there's some junk out there, but it is what it is. It's Halloween sells. It's got to be $1 billion industry with the costumes in the
pop-up stores,
the pop-up stores, and the obviously every single candy company out there absolutely loves Halloween. But it gets insane. But Ministry was interesting. Props again to my brother James, who covered these guys. He was into them, and I wasn't really that understanding of why until I looked them up. So Ministry formed in Chicago, which blew my mind right off the bat. In 1981, they were initially a synth pop, and then they kind of settled into the industrial metal.
That's right.
Crazy political. They actually did 3 albums that bashed the hell out of George W. Bush. They were nominated. Huh?
I know him very well. Seen him live numerous times.
Yeah, they were nominated for 6 Grammy Awards, which showcases their range. They have great stuff. I've listened to a lot of their stuff again, and I'm like, all right, that's pretty damn good. I'm gonna download that. A lot of their stuff is sampled. They have phenomenal intros to a lot of their work. They again not a commercial based band, but when they were forming their damn record company, and I think we've discussed this before, pushed them to be, well, they wanted to be like the next Joy Division. And if you don't know who Joy Division is, think of Depeche Mode. So after a huge concert with Flock of Seagulls, Depeche Mode, and Culture Club, they wanted to be like them. So their label company took them out and cut their hair and got them designed and said, you were going to be these people, and pushed that stuff. It was insane, to the point where the singer was given
Al Jorgensen.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was going to just look at that. It was told, I guess not told, but suggested to sing with an English accent. And that's where I think my brother kind of latched onto him, because he was into the madness and the Devo. And that's where these guys were coming from. They were in the Joy Division and the Depeche Mode. So yes, if you had that kind of, why did I think they were that? That's why. And anyway, Every Day is Halloween, I think I've heard this song in a bunch of different places. All right. Listen to that song longer, and then you it comes in. You go, wait a minute, I've heard this song in a movie. So yeah, it's a band that you probably have heard of. You might not have liked, you might not have listened to, but trust me, you've heard their stuff before.
A Mind of the Terrible Thing to Taste was their first good album.
Oh, thank you, Charlie. I'm not even going to go into it, but look up. They have some of the most amazing, funniest named albums and songs. Well, probably albums in general. And some of their tours are really interesting, the way they name them. So I don't know how they didn't even get into that, but the creativity, I definitely appreciated.
Side project Revolting Cocks. I actually got to see both of them together in Vegas in 2007, which was just amazing. But anyway,
well, there you go. Charlie just revealed some of the interesting side projects that they did. That yes,
and you can find them on Spotify. The Revolting Cocks have 2 really good albums. So that's
I'm not even gonna talk about some of the stuff that I saw when I was looking it up. But yes. Yeah, any great stuff. Anyway, moving on to Echo and the Bunnymen. It's not really much of anything. They have a friend that threw out all kinds of band names, from the stupidest thing to, well, this name. And they said, yeah, wait a minute, hold on, that one. Let's do that one. It has no meaning whatsoever, but this one stuck. And one of the band members said, it was as stupid as the other ones that they offered, but this one sounded just as the best of the stupid.
Fair enough.
Cool thing about it is they were formed in Liverpool.
Nice.
Go Liverpool. And 1978. And they supported the ska bands. I didn't want to do this kind of tie-ins, but it naturally happened. But they supported the ska bands like Madness, featured in one of our shows with the young ones. And on stage, they played 2 songs and they were booed off stage because they weren't ska. They were too poppy, I guess. And
everybody's worried about looks.
Well, ska bands, yeah. But I thought his voice, Ian McCullough, sounded like Robert Smith and Bono kind of combined. But I thought it was funny. Again, the record company got involved and said, hold on a second. We need you to be commercially successful, so we need stuff that sells. And then at one point in time, they said, listen to this. And they played Peter Gabriel's So album. You need to sound like this.
Wow.
But here's The Killing Moon. All right, so
I recognize that one.
Yeah. And actually, they have quite a few hits and beautiful stuff. Again, you got on the surface, what was on the radio, what you remember hearing, but then please go in that deeper dive, see what they have. There's beautiful stuff on the B-sides. It's amazing. Which when you talk to kids these days, B-sides, what are you talking about?
Right. It's like elevator music at the hipster bar, It's good stuff.
All right. Next one, everyone probably should recognize because of Stranger Things, which I did not expect that to happen. Matter of fact, my friend Brandon from my previous podcast said, they just ruined your favorite song. I'm like, what are you talking about? And yes, Running Up That Hill, Kate Bush from '85 is phenomenal. I loved her stuff way earlier than Stranger Things, but I thought, hey, cool, great for her. I even enjoyed some of the covers of the song. Meg Myers does a phenomenal version of the cover. But Kate Bush, her demo tape was financed by David Gilmour from Pink Floyd.
Interesting.
And I thought that was pretty wild. And that in 1978, she was 19 and topped the singles chart for 4 weeks in the UK, becoming the first female to do this with a fully self-written song. Badass for you, Kate. Or Catherine, however you want to say it. And then she's had 25 UK top 40 singles. So this one is Running Up the Hill.
All right.
And just listening to the song, there is a beautiful line in that song that is just one of the greatest lyrics I've ever heard. Has the word asunder. How many people have the word asunder in their song, Charlie?
What I was thinking about was a classic Dice Clay riff when he's talked about, what was it? Jack and Jill went up the hill, each with a bucket of quarter, and Jill came down with 250. That's what I was kind of thinking about.
Folks, this is what you get if you hang out with Charlie, which, trust me, is a really good time.
Oh yeah.
All right. The next and last is Lullaby by The Cure. I'm not even going to get into their history, which is absolutely insane. But I will tell you this. I was skeptical when I was younger because The Cure fit in a very, well, I don't know if you remember this, Charlie, but in high school, it was goth. The people that wore the black, the people that wore, their hair and they just look
some makeup to school and stuff like that. I mean, and I guess people from Chesapeake would probably think there was a couple people like that, and yeah, there were a few, not a ton, but there were certainly a few that were that sort of genre. But hey, kudos to them for
hindsight
out there,
or foresight, I should say, because my buddy Owen, he was. Yeah, Owen Lowe. He was into The Cure, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's. I was in between, like I would make fun of Poison, and then I'd make fun of The Cure, and I wasn't really sure because then then you were going, hey, we got Kicks, Dangerous Toys, so I ended up kind of going, you know what? I like Rush, The Cure, Dangerous Toys, Kicks. And I'm all over the place in Depeche Mode. So,
from where we're from, the gateway drug to a lot of alternative music like The Cure, Echo and the Bunnymen, Oingo Boingo was WHFS.
Yes,
because 98 Rock, DC 101, that was contemporary adult rock, but you had HFS that was always there with the alternative stuff, and then later HF festivals where you could actually go see these bands. So yeah, we were blessed that we had at least a choice.
Yeah, it was quite interesting, and I actually fell in love with them to the point I absolutely, matter of fact, I would argue back and forth with myself, Disintegration, Fascination Street as being my favorite song of all time. But this is Lullaby.
Okay.
I will tell you this though, The Cure are notorious for having super long intros and very long songs. So, but yeah, that's my picks for kind of scary-ish stuff initially. More to come. Charlie, what do you got? What do you got, buddy?
As I'm transitioning over, one last thing about The Cure. In the early episodes of South Park, if anybody recalls the Mecha Godzilla episode, Robert Smith was, I believe, Mothra or something of that nature. And then Kyle yells out, "Hey, Robert Smith, Disintegration was your best album." So Kyle and Paul are in agreement as far as what the best Cure albums were. My 5 scary songs. I did want to lead off with a band again. Wait
a minute, hold on. We're supposed to be scary series. Well, whatever. Again.
Well, they're scary. They're scary. These will, like I said earlier, these will leave some baby Ruths in your boxers if you're not careful. But first, the German band Helloween from circa 86-ish, and they still make music from time to time to this day. But the one that everybody that got them on the map was in the MTV days. They had a song called Halloween. So you had Halloween by Helloween. It's about a 9-minute epic video. But what does that song sound like?
I actually had the beginning of it. Do 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 do. All right,
it's fantastic. And that Halloween, for anybody, again, look on your streamers. Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 and Part 2 are just classics. I mean, again, and his voice is incredible. His voice has such amazing range. I saw him in '89, Clash of the Titans in Baltimore. It was Exodus, Testament and Halloween, and the guy he was sick and still got out there and just ripped off these vocal interludes. It was just amazing. I mean, every time I got a glass, it would shatter in my hand. His voice was so divine.
You guys are just, God damn it, man! I need another beer.
They were $12 a piece. This is crazy.
That's what they give out plastic solo cups these days.
Right.
You and I are gonna talk about the octave level of some of the stuff that you're bringing to the Ultimate Mixtape podcast.
Oh my God.
Right.
Some of them are a little rough. Second one. Right. So leaning in, I did have still had a kind of a penchant for some of the heavier metal at the time, like Slayer. Again, as I was sort of coming up through high school, one of my top 5 sort of aha moments was when Slayer put out Reign in Blood, Reignin Blood, the album. But the last song on the album, Raining Blood, has always been sort of a classic. Starts kind of slow, gets a little stormy, and then ultimately builds to this huge crescendo at the end, where even live they drop blood on the stage. I mean, it's very, very dramatic, but I know the beginning of the song kind of gives a little bit of a taste to it.
Like the blood that comes out of the elevator and it's shiny. Here we go. There it is. Oh my gosh.
I remember Charlie Benante from Anthrax once said, "If I ever go to hell, I would expect that to be the soundtrack as I'm transported down to hell." I always expected Raining Blood to be that particular song that I heard. So it lives up to that. So,
oh my God, this is really good. Oh no, this is pretty good.
Fantastic. So third one on the list today is from Iron Maiden. Again, one of my all-time favorite bands, but this song was a little bit lesser known. I mean, they had, Number of the Beast, we had Live After Death, we had Somewhere in Time, a lot of those great albums that came out. But in 92, they had the Fear of the Dark album, which wasn't quite as well received, but Be Quicker, Be Dead is a kick-ass song. This is one they still show on MTV Classic every now and then, but if you've heard this song or never heard it before, this one will grab you by the boo-boo. Bruce don't mess around. Yeah, but that,
my gosh.
Yeah, more of those octave levels. But again, Be Quicker, Be Dead leads off that album in a beautiful way. And fourth on the list, I know I'm going back to the King Diamond well, but it's Halloween. So went a little into the Abigail, another concept album that they had. And the Family Ghost was always one that I thought was a real toe tapper. But again, if you haven't heard King Diamond before, some of his... Again, his vocal range was pretty much unmatched for the time, and of course had a twin guitar attack behind him that was pretty amazing. But what's King Diamond sound like on the Family Ghost?
I'm gonna put my glass away. Hold on a second.
You might.
He starts up so high,
and that's just like warm ups for him.
All right.
He does opera when he gets out of bed in the morning. So then the last and not least, maybe not a scary song, but in the title, but I'm a huge Pantera fan, probably one of my top 5 bands of all time. Just captured the moment, and just Dimebag Darrell, the lead guitarist who was tragically shot on stage in 2005, really just got this band going. Vinnie Paul, his brother, played drums. Unfortunately, he's passed on as well here in Vegas. But both of those guys really got this band going. And it's funny you mentioned about some of the early stuff with Ministry. So Pantera actually had a glam rock couple albums. I remember my cousins had like this album from a band called Pantera in like the early 80s. I'm like, who the hell is this? And they kind of sounded like Def Leppard if you chop their balls off. I mean, it's very similar to that, the sound of the music. But once they kind of got their legs under them and they did the Cowboys from Hell album, just wrote the legend from there. I saw these guys so many times live back in the day, and Cowboys from Hell always has like just an amazing. All this album had so many good guitar riffs, but if you just play at the beginning of the song, you'll hear just kind of that memorable riff that is just tells you about Pantera. So take it away.
Oh, sorry. Did I miss it? Hold on a second. You got to tell me, you got to warn me about these things. So yeah, sure. I'd love to. Now it's on my playlist, folks. Again, check out our pages. You'll see our playlist. This is the stuff that I play the next day after the show as I'm taking my kid to school. I'm like, and I explore new music, and I love it. So thank you, Charlie.
Oh yes, that's just poisoning the ears of a new generation. So I'm just glad to be a part of it. All right, so I think we're getting to the home stretch.
Oh, another 2-hour show, man. It's crazy. All right, are we good?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right. This show is clean. Or maybe not. Seriously, every kid from the 80s and 90s has to have a checklist by now of what not to do when it comes to being caught up in all this craziness when it comes to horror movies. All right. Well, hopefully before buying your house, you checked to see if it was built on top of a sacred burial ground or mass gravesite. Thanks for summoning us.
And we totally appreciate your support of the show. We welcome all of the living and the dead to be subscribers of the Totally Radical Mixtape podcast as we keep taking our show a little closer to the light every week. But we'll be back next week with some more paranormal discussions and some creepy stories in episode 9. So don't ghost us. But we'll see you next time, and we'll see you in your dreams.
Darkness. Where am I now? Is there anybody out there? What has happened? Am I in heaven? Or is it hell? I can see a light coming.